In August 2023, we at Invertase ran a campaign called Firebase Builders 23, which the aim was to introduce Firebase extension and the coolness of, well, Firebase as a backend for any project. And we also introduced amazing rewards and gifts for the project. So the project was going on for a few weeks, around 20 days. And as you can imagine, we received so many submissions. In different categories, we started looking at the projects and judged them. Among all of them, the first one, who was also the winner or the first winner of this competition, was an app named KnowWaste, which was an AI powered recycling companion where you can find it even right now on App Store and Google Play. The app was created amazingly with good architecture, so many usage of AI powered extension on Firebase, and good technologies. Now I have a privilege to invite the author of this app to this show to ask so many questions to understand how he made this amazing app in 20 days with the technology that he used, including Firebase and Firebase extension, and maybe other things. We will ask. Let me introduce you, Pavel. Hey, Pavel, how's it going?
Hi, Majid. Thanks for having me. Let's talk about this app.
Good to see you, Pavel. Before we start, Pavel, I think I would like you to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, and how did you come up with this idea for the Firebase Builder competition?
Oh, so I'm 20 years old, and I am a full stack developer. I like creating projects that have a social impact and that present a complex technology wrapped in a nice UI package. So I deliver complex solutions for users to appreciate, and sometimes I add the gamification so users can actually get more addicted to the app that gives them good habits or simplifies their daily tasks. And KnowWaste basically has all of these features. And when I got first an invite to this competition, I found it on LinkedIn, and I decided to create something that would not only match all the criteria, but also have social impact. And of course, I chose Firebase extensions, and I decided to go with the AI ones, and I decided to choose the ones that use camera, because I had never worked with AI extensions that detect objects before with Flutter, and I really wanted to make an application with Flutter. Since we had limited time and I wanted to spend more time on the back end, I decided to simplify my tasks for mobile devices and present app in Flutter to be optimized both on Android and iOS at the same time.
So interesting. So you quickly mentioned about the technologies that you use. So you use Flutter for your, let's say, client application, mobile application that you're building, and Firebase in your backend. And also you used a few, if I'm not mistaken, Firebase extension, mostly the AI-based extensions. Do you want to actually pull up your maybe code editor and walk us through the code? As far as I remember, your app is open source too, right? Like people can go to the GitHub and take a look at that. So I will put the link of the repository of this project into the description of this show, wherever you see or watch this video. But go ahead and tell us about the code and what you've used, and show us the structure of the app. I really like to know how you managed to create this app, different architecture, maybe whatever you use there, because the time was very limited, like 20 days. It's like quite fast to build such a big, such a nice application. Are you ready for your code editor?
We're exploring the code with looking at Firebase, so I can quickly introduce you to the extensions that I'm using for this project. Let's ignore the new versions available here, since it's been quite some time since I fully updated the extensions. But let's
Can
focus
we
on
take a pause here,
yeah.
Pavel? So, do you want to quickly say what are Firebase extensions for those who don't know?
So Firebase These are great new products developed by Firebase and the community that allows you to simplify some of the routine tasks that your project might require, such as, for example, search, AI tools, links, modifications of Firestore, for example, automatically deleting users when the user deletes their account in your application. So such routine things that you code from one project to another are simplified with Firebase extensions. With the special APIs, you can create new objects automatically in your Firestore, upload photos and process them, and you don't need to write any API for that, and it is already provided to you for a pretty reasonable cost.
Yeah.
So this is why they're so great. This is why we love them. So let's go through the Alm APIs first. This is the core of the application. This is what powers the KnowWaste camera. So we have language tasks, summarize text, and label images here. And these extensions work together in order to process the captured image and extract the information from it, and further process it and present it to the user. All of the other extensions are more of utilities. So, for example, Grid CMS is a great extension for managing your Firestore. So it's great for copying documents because I was working with a lot of structure for this app. So it's easy to copy, change, modify documents. Firestore user document from Bowie is a great extension for automatically creating Firestore document when a new user enters the app. Since my app is fully adapted for anonymous use, it's great to have user documents migrate to a registered account once user decides to save their progress. And distributed counter is a nice solution for is a nice solution for heavy load tasks. For example, participating in competitions that are part of the application and uploading multiple images in a span of a couple of minutes, and it counts the number of objects detected and adds it to your current score of the competition. So all of these extensions you will see in the code, and let's go to GitHub to actually check it out. So on GitHub, I decided to create a model repository with backend and frontend folders. So backend hosts all the Firebase things, so hosting, functions, and everything else related to that. And frontend hosts the actual application. So let's enter it to see the structure of the app. We have the simple, classic Flutter layout that only supports iOS and Android as currently. And I can walk you through PubSpec to see the dependencies that I'm using. It might be an overkill for.
So in fact, the repository that you created is somehow mimicking a monorepo, right? You put both backend and frontend into one repository.
Monorepo, yeah, it's fully monorepo.
And the frontend in this case is just a Flutter application, as you said.
Just
that. Okay. And you're now focusing only on iOS and Android.
Yeah.
So no web or no other platforms. Do you have any plan for the future, like maybe add other platforms to this application?
I'm having difficulties with the web devices because of the access to the camera and the processing speed that I can't offer on those devices. But I'm planning on doing some simplified version of the app for both desktop and web platforms. So currently it is iOS and Android only. Yes, looking forward to that very much too. So let's check out the PubSpec file to see the dependencies that I'm using. This might be an overkill for some applications, but I really wanted to speed up the process of development since of the limited time I had for the actual UI. And I decided to add some packages that would improve the UI without me having to code everything myself, which would take a lot of time. So it's all categorized. Some people will hate me for not sorting it alphabetically, but I like categorizing my extensions and the packages that I'm using. So Firebase, of course, is here. We're using a bunch of Firebase technologies such as authentication, cloud functions, Firestore, and storage for storing the images, as well as some other packages like Apple sign-in and Google sign-in, which work with Firebase authentication. UI consists of Google Fonts, which is a great package that allows you to use Google Fonts that are publicly available in your app. Cache Network Image is a classic Markdown to present articles in a nice, neat way without having to modify text or tags. SVG for clean SVG images, and some loading animations and splashes and other things like toasts and dialogues. So it all presents information in a concise and pretty way. And in the util, we have our classic Dio for fetching, Hive for storing data, Go Router for navigation, of course Riverplot for state management, and Image Picker for example, getting your image from the camera or the camera roll. Some simple things like UUID and date formatting, so nothing special here. And of course, we're using Freeze to speed up our code generation for data transfer objects and for the types of objects we're using in the application. So this is fairly simple. Nothing overkill here. All of these dependencies work well together and allow me to provide a nice look to the app without having to spend too much time customizing it myself. So when we enter the lib folder, I'm using the classic Flutter structure of separating services, repositories, providers, and the actual UI. So first of all, we have models, which features all of the models that I'm using in the application. So all of the objects. And here you can see some of the types that you can find easily in the app. For example, articles, challenges, guides, and statistics, as well as recycled and analyzed waste, which is the actual output of the waste. And all of these folders, since we're using Freeze, contain 3 files, which are the auto-generated code for JSON parsing and serialization. So nothing special here. And if we move on to the presentation, this is our UI layer, which is split to features, router, which uses Go Router for navigation, shared, which is the shared components of the app, such as toasts, dialogues, and other things that appear in multiple screens, and theme for providing color schemes and fonts for the application. So features is our main.
I have one suggestion, Pavel. I think to make sense for those who are watching without I have seen your app and I know what you're talking about. Some of our viewers maybe have not seen that before. Do you have the app open in your machine so that we can quickly go through the pages and show them different steps in the app?
Start a simulator. Let me start a simulator so I can show the app parallel to the code.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, just a second. Let me find the folder, because I want to talk about the structure and I know that a lot of people are interested in the folder structure for the app and how to, where to put the elements. So I think people will be interested in that. And pretty much there is structure, there is Firebase extensions, and that's it. There is nothing else.
But Pavel, I think it's better to just go through the app and maybe show everyone how this app actually works. And then we can come back to the architecture of the application and you tell us how you build these, functionalities. Shall we do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So as you can see, we have the app open right now. We have the home page, which presents us with a bunch of data that we need to know. Let's just right away jump into the waste scanner to check it out and scan a beautiful pair of sunglasses that I have here. And I need to dispose of them because they're old, so I would like to know how to actually recycle them. And I need advice on that. It doesn't say anything about that on them, so let's see what we can do. Plastic sunglasses says that it's not recyclable. Why? It's a pair of sunglasses, and we should just put them in a plastic bag, put them in the recycling bin, and then they will be processed in a special facility that deals with these types of plastic only, because this is a special thick type of plastic. So, understood. And as you can see, my items went up, so I just recycled one more. It's plastic waste, and I'm now in top 5 users of the app, so I am cool. If I also participated in the Plastic Master Challenge, which I am currently not joined, so let's change that by joining. We can see that it's a challenge for recycling 20 plastic recyclables, and we have some 7 participants here already recycling hard and unlimited time, so I can always get a hold of them and actually win this competition. We have the same one, for example, for electronics. So these are the tools, and one of the things I have in the pipeline for the application for further updates are adding more tools that are also AI-powered and simplifying AI recycling education and how to sort waste, how to recognize waste, and how to deal with different types, for example, different types of plastic waste, and how to understand those magic numbers that are written on our bottles, how to deal with that. And it's all easy with AI and them explaining to you how to actually process it. So on learning, there's a community tab here that presents you with a bunch of very useful information that can help you with your recycling adventures and just simplify your everyday life. So I have some articles here that are published every week. At least I'm trying to publish them every week. And one of the featured one is the recycling is broken, kind of controversial. How do we fix it? So here we have pretty long text, and I don't really have time right now to read it. So let's just tap on the AI-generated summary. And here, AI has already generated a way shorter summary for us to understand. So it's the same thing, and I know what to do. Next up, we have guides, so Recycling 101. And here you can actually learn how to properly recycle things like electronics, plastic, and other materials with fun and insights into how to actually do this. That is not written in books and not written on the streets. So this is a good way to learn this. Next up, we have challenges, and we have more articles, for example, recycling goals in the US until 2030. Pretty interesting. And again, if we go in here, we can read either the whole article or we can just read the summary. If we want to read it later, we can always add it to the bookmarks and remove it when we have read it. In the profile is a simple layout with all the settings you need, all the help and support that you might need to know the app better, or find if something is not working, how to fix it, or contact me for further requests. I'm always open to help. And you can check out your old scans and most importantly, log in. Let's sign out right now. I can still use the application as an anonymous user, but if I want to save my progress and actually say that this is me who recycled 100 items and won the competition, I can always sign in with Google, Apple, or email and keep the progress and have a beautiful profile picture too.
So as far as I see then in the homepage, I think then, so the most important functionality for this application is scanning a waste, right? So
Yep.
I like you to explain, like, how did you connect these dots of scanning until you find out what it is and like show a proper way of recycling and all of those. You want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do a bit more technical and explain how the waste scatter, the main feature of the application, actually works. So, as I said before, it is powered by Firebase AI and Google. As I said, it is powered by Firebase extensions and Google AI. So it's called Cloud Vision, and Cloud Vision provides you with multiple really innovative tools, such as object detection, where we can actually know that these on our image that we took are sunglasses and not a glass of water. Next up, we need to understand what the sunglasses are made of, because they can be made of metal elements or have some glass features, because these are purely plastic. So the app actually told us correctly to recycle all the parts if you saw and put them all in the plastic.
Okay,
so we need to recognize.
So let's do it this way, I think, to make even more sense. Would you go ahead and again start scanning? So let's talk about like piece by piece, like what you're doing here and then what's next and stuff like that. So let's do the scanning again.
let's try our glasses.
Okay,
They're long overdue for
so
the
this
testing.
is, well, technically it's just a camera on your phone, right? So you capture a picture and then?
So let's capture it. You find a good angle with good lighting and everything that satisfies you, and we are uploading it, as it says here. So we are pushing it to the backend to analyze, and all the further steps are analyzing.
And where do you upload that? So you upload that to Firebase storage, right?
We upload it to Firebase storage, and that command, which is the most, I think, fascinating part of the project, is that a simple command of us uploading this to Firebase storage triggers a bunch of commands that actually do all of the work for us. So the fascinating part is that after the app upload, the app actually doesn't do anything else. So there are no calls to the backend from the app. It's only listening for the backend to return the final value, which you can now see on the screen.
And when you say backend, in this case means Firebase, right? And where are you listening? Like you're just listening to a Firestore, maybe like data that is coming through, or listening to something else, like maybe a function or endpoint or whatever.
Flutter has a great implementation with Firebase and Firestore. So we can listen to a Firestore collection, which is in our case called analyzed waste. And once we see that there is a new entry in the collection under the user ID that we're currently logged in as or anonymously logged in as, we can see that the photo was processed and the status says complete. After that, we know that we can finally show user all of the information.
Oh, I see. So then technically when you upload, then you're using those extensions that you showed in the beginning of the show, right? And those gonna pick up this object from Firebase, let's say storage, right? And then they're gonna analyze it, and then they will write back to Firestore some data, let's say. Are you showing those data like directly here, or you're still like manipulating the data, or maybe like you have now, maybe this is a sunglass, then you call another function or do something else to get more data, and then you bring it back here? How does that piece is working?
So this is also a very fascinating part of the project, is assembling the data and gather different parts of the object from different API calls to the AI. So first, once you upload the image, we send it to the object detection to detect what is on the image and to remove all of the possible unnecessary objects, such as your finger, your hand, maybe a phone that is in the picture, or a table, anything. Right? We don't want to recycle a table that the glass is laying on. So we want only the glass. So Google AI allows us to scan the image for possible objects and predict where the main central object is located, and also give it a name. So for example, if we have glasses that are in the center, in the middle of the picture, and they're clearly glasses, Google will tell us this is glasses, 99% certainty. And the app knows we're recycling glasses today. And this is all the app knows about the glasses at the moment. Only that these are glasses. No materials, no color, no nothing.
Because now it makes sense for everyone, like what is this app is doing. So now let's talk about like how did you connect the pieces?
Okay, so just for like your refresher, we do image labeling. We get the object. Then we get the type, so plastic, blah, blah, blah. And then we assemble the actual response. So all that you see in the app, the sunglasses, types, tips, and tricks, this is all from AI, just so you know the layout.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go into...
So these are, let's okay, Firestore database, okay.
And let's go into waste. This is the last one, so let's trace it back. Labeled waste. And before that, we have detected objects, which is actually in the API. So do you want me to show the cloud function that I wrote for this?
So would you now explain, like, so you get this data from the extension back written to this collection, right? Okay. Which extension was it? Image labeling.
Yeah, that's a data labeling.
Sounds good. And then once that is back, then you have written a function in Firestore that is picking up.
Not like that. It's first the object detection, which is a function because I wrote the extension. It didn't exist before. and then it's the labeling.
Okay, so now when we uploaded the photo, then image labeling is picking that from storage, then analyze it with Vision API, and then the data is back to this collection here, which a few labels are added back, right? So this
Yeah.
is
What?
until the time that you upload and analyze the picture. And how do you
Yeah.
recognize this is like what kind of recycle is? I mean, how should we recycle this object?
So first, we need to understand what the object is made of. So since we already know that these are glasses, we need now to know which materials these glasses are made of. So this image labeling API tells us, predicts what type of objects it can see and what type of materials those objects represent. So features. So let's see a couple of features. I decided to add a lot of them so I can go through them. For example, one of the most recent ones says that it's a tin material. After that, we can see it said that this is a beverage can, which is again getting us closer to the actual object that is in the image. And we have aluminum can, right? So again, closer that it's beverage. It might be tin, it might be aluminum, and then we say it's a tin can. So we have two choices now.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have fluid, which means that there is fluid inside it. So we first need to pour the liquid out of the beverage can, and after that, we'll recycle it.
So
This
was an analyze on a photo of maybe a glass or something, right? Like a soft drink glass.
Recent examples. For example, soft drink. It was a sparkling water
I see.
Can, which was an aluminum can of sparkling water with water still inside.
I see.
Which is important. So it says also something about shapes. It's a cylinder. It says that it might be beer, and as you can see, the score of this is pretty low, so it's 0.8, which again gives us some concerns if this is actually the correct prediction because AI is still learning. So what we're actually interested in here are the first three elements that I am usually grabbing from this, and this gives me a pretty much complete description of the objects that we're talking about here. So I already know the type of the object, I know what it's made of, and I have a couple of assumptions of what some of the details might be. For example, is there water inside? Is there some other element that I might not have noticed with the previous APIs? So all this data now represents our object, and now we're ready to move on to actually analyze it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sounds good.
Here.
Then how, maybe you mentioned that, but to clarify it. So now you know the different material of the object. Do you have any kind of API, or how do you know like what is recyclable, what is not recyclable? I assume that this part is communicated with some type of sources that is accurate, right? So do you have an API, or what kind of source do you use? Is it still an like a Google API, Palm API, or?
Yeah, so Google API is really good at detecting the type and analyzing all of these labels that I provide for it. So I tested it with different objects, and the accuracy is above 90% on all of the occasions. So from now on, with all of these labels, we'll be using the language models, the text generation from Palm API, which will process all of this and result in a clear instruction of how to proceed with recycling this item.
Okay, interesting. If you just go back to extension, maybe my last question, and so then, because as far as I can see, there are lots of extension here, and your app is very much powered by these extensions, right? So, for example, you showed us an article that you summarized it. I believe that is based on the summarized text with Palm API, right? And then, so you had this image labeling, and that's nice. You showed us what is the language tasks, and with Palm API, have you used that in your application?
Yeah, language tasks is the thing that I was just talking about. This is the one that actually provides us with the text that you can see in the application. So this summarizes all the data we prepare for it, and it shows us the actual human readable instructions. So this is the part where the app communicates with the user. This is why it's a recycling companion, because this is your buddy that tells you what to actually do, not in the terms of code and how to process it, but in the actual terms of fun and cool advice on how to recycle this item. So let's take a closer look at how this is done.
Yep.
And this is the most interesting part. So this is a big text with multiple lines that actually tells us what to say in a pretty communicative way. So this is the same way you would talk to ChatGPT. And this explains to the AI how to process all of the things that we have gathered so far.
Oh, interesting. So you have like a prompt here, predefined prompt, and then you replace it with the object names and whatever you had, the material, and then it gives you a human readable structure.
Yep. One of the great features of Palm AI that I discovered that is handled really well is creating quote unquote variables in your request, which you can see here are always capitalized. So for example, object repeats itself a lot, object material, and all of these variables I'm keeping track of. So once the AI actually decides on what the object is, how to recycle it, and if it's recyclable, they keep track of those values. So they keep track of them for me, and I can later completely assemble them and return them as variables into my app. So for example, here we have object name, object material, and object recyclable. This is what you asked before. So how do we determine that it's recyclable? So if you read into this text, it will explain to you in steps, and this is how AI handles it. And the way this text is assembled is actually, it is written by the AI for the AI. So Palm API wrote it for itself after I tested it on multiple choices of images and saw how it processes. So for example, hand, finger, gesture, thumb are the one of the most common descriptions of human hand that is in the picture if you capture an image. So it decided to filter them out. So all of this info is gathered, processed, and returned in a human readable form.
Very interesting. So of course, I think we should get into the detail of this, extension, and maybe more precise about what you've done really to create these prompt and stuff in another show, or maybe a longer show. But as far as I understood, this was kind of like project for a competition that we ran, and then it slowly started becoming like a serious project for you. So you published that in App Store, Google Play, and you're even adding more feature to the application right now. So do you want to say anything about this, and also any closing thoughts if you have?
Yes, I started this project as competition project, so I wanted to make it fast. I wanted to make it look nice and do what the criteria was saying to do. And once I started working more closely on this topic, I realized the significance of learning recycling, and I realized the potential of helping people with this project. So I decided to scale it a bit more and work harder on it for it not to only match the criteria for the competition, but also allow me to develop it further, add even more technology, add even more interesting tools that will help people. And I would really like to see people using this, people scanning items, teaching the AI how to become better, recognizing them, and learning something, while also having fun and scanning all the items in your household to see how to recycle your TV, how to recycle your table, and things like that. So this is always fun and learning experience, which is, I think, the way to learn something as important as it is in our modern society as recycling.
Well, thank you very much for showing up in this show and shared with us how you build this great application. So I will definitely ping all of the links in the description so everyone can go ahead and download the app, although it's pretty known. So you can just go and search for knowaste and you will probably find it on both the stores. And with that said, Pavel, you need to promise us to come back and tell us more about the technical aspect of this project. And so, with that said, I think I wish you a very pleasant day or night wherever you are.
Thank you. So looking forward to talking more in detail about this project, and thank you for having me.